Hey folks, it's Brian. Here a little early. Make sure everything's working right. So if anybody is watching, let me know if you can hear or see me. Because I would appreciate it. I'm right here, guys. I'm just off camera. Just give me a second. Need to get something real quick. All right. Nerd, hey buddy. Going down, man. We're gonna do some cultural appropriation today. We're gonna culturally appropriate the deep ones. So suck on that, PC Patrol. What have you been up to, man? Did you get any painting done today? You slaving away instead? A little early, make sure everything's working right. All right. Oh, okay. All right, dude. A couple more mechs. I'm telling you. Play Battletech. I want to say that certain mechs were only offered to certain clans or whatever because they just don't have access to them. I can't remember if that's right or not. Or does everybody have access to like the mech tech? You wouldn't think they would. You think they'd like, certain mechs would be for certain groups because it's what they have or what they produce or something. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Because I remember playing back in the day. I remember certain mechs weren't available to certain factions. But I guess shit. You can play it however you want. If you like a certain mech and your army doesn't have, you can always say you looted it or you just bought it like on the black market or some shit. But yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Tonight caught up to me quick. I was like, oh, I gotta get back. I gotta get on the show. I got a show tonight. Get on it. Gotta get on it. We'll jump in here at 8. We'll start at 8 proper. Trying to line up some reference stuff here. So I don't look like I'm completely talking out of my butt. Okay, I just need to do a fucking here we go. All right. The deep ones. All right. Got a minute. We got a minute, folks. Ooh, jump on proper. Yeah, I put on a new I put up a new video battle report that actually had deep ones involved in it. So I figured, shit, let's talk about like the rules that I have that I use for the deep ones. And they're human hybrids. They're spawn. I don't know how that works, dude. All right, guys, it's 8 o'clock. Time to ring the bell. Weird World War II is on the march. All right, so tonight, we're gonna, like I was saying, I had played a Battleground Weird World War II game with Omen, where it's up on the site right now on the channel. So if you guys haven't seen it, be sure to go check it out. Where a tribe of pygmies. Hey, hold on one, guys. There's someone at the door. Hold on. All right, I'm on a show, so. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, so we played a game where the Japanese and the Deep Ones were pitted against a savage, badass race of pygmies on this island, and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the Deep Ones. So I figured we haven't talked about like using certain stuff in a while in your gaming, so I figured that's what we would do tonight because I'm running out of shit to talk about, guys. All right, so a little background. The Deep Ones were obviously, written into being by H.P. Lovecraft in the Tale of the Inns. Well, let me give you the actual title. I think it's the Innsmouth. I can't remember. First, there's one Dagon. Dagon is kind of like the he's not like a god, but he's like the oldest Deep One, right? And then his wife, Mother Hydra, which is like the oldest female of the Deep Ones. And so Dagon was the first story, and it's basically about a guy who gets kind of caught up. He escapes a German prison ship. This is like during World War One. And he kind of falls asleep in this boat he stole, and he wakes up in this crazy world, and the Deep Ones and Dagon and shit are right there, and the whole madness bit. But we don't really get into the Deep Ones, real the deep dive until we get the shadow over Innsmouth. So in brief, the shadows over Innsmouth, it's basically this guy is drawn to this town in New England, and over time he discovers that this town has been like seduced by the Deep Ones, right? Giving them riches and powers and whatnot if they worship them, and underlining so the Deep Ones have they don't really go into super detail, but the Deep Ones, their like reproduction cycle, I don't think they can have sex or they can make babies themselves. So they basically like raid coastal areas, getting breeding stock, converting these people into hybrids. And then they eventually, as they grow older, they start to show signs of like the Deep Ones, taint. And they start to get fishy and whatnot, and then over time they can return to the sea and then like live as a Deep One or whatever the fuck, something like that. But so in the mythos, they're an established creature, okay, and they worship. There's a cult that let me give you the cult actual name. It's like the Esoteric Order of Dagon. That's the cult that the hybrids, the Deep One hybrids, worship. Okay, now they worship Dagon and Mother Hydra, but those two beings are not really like gods, but their god is Cthulhu. So they're kind of like a middleman to the worship of Cthulhu. So Deep Ones are kind of rooted in the worship of Cthulhu. Okay. So if you got to attach the Deep Ones to any one like elder god or outer god or whatever, it would be Cthulhu. So in your stories and backgrounds and whatever. Oh, so let me continue. So in Innsmouth, I'm gonna ruin the story. So spoilers if you haven't read it. It's a great story. It's a good book or story. The U.S. like military base. The FBI come and they say it, and they blow it to hell. They blow the Innsmouth to hell. But they discover that there's like a deep one like community or a city called Yahanithli. Okay, and it's just it's in the depths of the Atlantic, just on in the coast of Innsmouth, which is in Massachusetts, and that like the military like torpedo it and they do all this shit. So in your stories, in your background for your deep one, whatever, they would be known by like governments, I would think. I mean, shit on the camera. They would be known, right? So you'd have like like in the states, the government like destroyed them, and they said it was like a what they say it was. They said it was like a criminal like bootlegging operation, a bunch of gangsters and blew up the town and burned down the town and whatever. So that's the cover story. But in reality, the government knows that the deep ones exist. So this is a race of creatures that are actually known. So you can work that into your story, your back of your game or your setting or whatever it is, right? So that's cool, and then in the stories, obviously the deep ones have approached like humanity and like have like offered them like worship Dagon, and you'll be rewarded. And what they do is they reward them with like gold trinkets, shit like heart, big bounties of fish if it's a fishing community or whatever. And and there's human sacrifice and all that stuff with the deep ones, religion. But the big thing is that they use people for like breeding stock, because the hybrids are the hybrids aren't necessarily born of the deep one union, but it's part of it. But people can be slowly tainted by just the corruption of the whatever the worship of Dagon can corrupt the humans, so they can start to turn or whatever. So that's pretty cool. So in this now there's a lot of game, the mythos shit is open IP. So that's why it's so prevalent, is because no one owns fucking Lovecraft stuff. So that's why it's so prevalent in everything, is because it's a cool it's a cool story, all of this shit. It's a cool setting, and it's like instantly recognizable. You can jump right into it. You know what it's about, and you can manipulate it to however you want. So that's why Cthulhu's fucking in everything. It's because it's free. It's a bunch of free content that you can use in your gaming and shit or whatever it is. So that's why you see a lot of it. So a lot of the Achtung Cthulhu, whatever version that you play, they've got some pretty cool in-depth kind of deep one kind of information and rules and character classes and whatever upgrades and all that stuff. So it's a good resource. And then Call Cthulhu will have a bunch of shit too. Any kind of mythos game probably has deep one information in it. So if you want to reach out and try to like read more into it. Now again, I play in the World War II setting, so Achtung Cthulhu would probably be your best bet to get that. Now this is the new the Game Master's Guide, and this has a bunch of deep one shit in it. So this is a really good place to start if you want to like buy something that has a lot of info. It's got like the Migos in it. We'll do Migos probably next week. It's got the deep ones, and it's got all the like World War II faction, kind of like tainted Weird World War II factions in there. So it's a cool setting. I really dig the Achtung Cthulhu setting. Now, for your miniatures, okay, so basically the fucking deep ones are just like fish like humanoids, right? They have they're kind of froggy actually. They're more froggish than they're fishy, but they're fish too. They're amphibious, whatever, right? So, you know, any fucking mini line that has some sort of like fish man would work. Okay. I use Reaper, okay? Reaper minis. This is and these are their bones, guys. This is their bone stuff. This is like a deep one shaman, okay? It's got like some sort of weird totem or whatever. They got like bug eyes. And then here's like a just like a normal warrior guy. See, they're kind of front. He's got hair on him. Jesus, he got hair on him. But they're like frog guys. I guess that's fishy frog fishy. I don't fucking know. But again, and I would think that the deep ones don't necessarily have like a said kind of. See, now my camera's all jacked. There we go. Like biology. I'm sure it's just like generic fish creature, right? So there you go. So you can pretty much use any line. Now, Modifius used to sell a Toon Cthulhu line of figures, and they had some pretty cool looking deep ones. We got our buddy who does the oh man, I just went blank. Ugh. Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of Fishman miniatures out there, so you can use that, and you can do a mixture. So like in Toon Cthulhu, they have what's called a reef breaker, which is basically like an older, stronger deep one that's large. Like it'd be like a dreadnought, right? It'd be like big, right? So, but in their take on it, it's just like a larger version of like the normal. But we use this. This is like a crab man, right? This is a Reaper bones, and it just looks cool. So, I think any deep one could be any kind of fish thing. It could be sharkish, because you see shark men minis all over the place, crab men, fish men, all that. Probably whale people. I don't know. Yeah, Reaper's so talking about Reaper, guys, okay? I would suggest anybody who needs like general like monsters and like fantasy stuff, go to Reaper, because like if you're playing like what is that skirmish everybody fucking love, Oathmark, or I don't know. It's the guy who makes Stargrave, whatever the fantasy version of that is. I mean, they sell their own minis, but man, Reaper's bones, which bones, all it is like soft plastic, right? It's not brittle. You can move these things around. They don't break. They bend, and they're cheap, guys. They're really fucking cheap. So, if you, I mean, and again, there's some fantastic metals out there. There's some that have like those, the fishmen have these cool spines. There's like, I like the shark. Like the shark men are cool. I've always liked shark men. Those are pretty sweet. But they're humanoid for the most part. At least in their description, they're humanoid fishmen. So if you're getting fishmen that are like, they've got like they're like mermaids or something, that probably wouldn't fit in the actual like mythos lore. But it doesn't fucking matter. You can it's your game. You can do it whatever you want. Oh yeah, the anglerfish one. That's a cool fucking mini. I dig that one. Reaper has some pretty cool big giant fish like were shark guys. Those are pretty cool. Okay, so and what's cool about the deep ones, guys, is that so it's assumed that the deep ones are kind of like throughout the world, right? So in your setting, and this is Weird World War II, so we're gonna just we're gonna set it in World War II in World War II era. You can have deep ones all over the planet. So and then with the war going on, you have war all over the planet, especially the oceans, Atlantic and the Pacific. And with the practice of the deep ones approaching humanity to, like, entice them into the fold, you could come up with great stories where the deep ones, are attached to certain belligerents. I would think that most of the, like, fascist belligerents would be more prone to side with the deep ones, as like nations. You'll have, like, individuals doing whatever they want, like, secretly, or communities possibly doing secretly. But that would be another level of, like, game ideas. So, like, instead of, worrying about, invasion from, the allies on the coast of France, you've got, you're playing the Germans, and you doing, patrols to look for, deep one, infiltration or infestation. So that's a whole nother level. And, the deep ones could be a third party, belligerent, or they can be, allied to somebody, right? All you got to do is basically just come up with, like, like in the last game that we played, the Japanese uh uh gave up a bunch of breeding stock to the deep ones. So that was enough for them to, like, okay, we'll try to help you out, and get what you need done. And so you can have those dark packs, and it wouldn't take much to, and then plus I think the deep ones entice people also with, like, riches. So the riches from the deep. So, and then maybe fish. There might be starving communities where the deep ones approach them and say, "Hey, we'll feed you. Just follow Dagon and whatever." Now, in a bigger sense, Dagon and Mother Hydra are actual physical beings, right, on Earth. They're like giant. They're like just really. They're like kaiju size. I think they're kaiju size, right? So that's a whole nother thing, guys. So, later, as we advance in our campaign, I'm going to be playing kaiju games in Weird World War II, because there's a story going on right now in the in a campaign, and it might lead to, like, kaiju sized creatures. Now imagine that you're in Midway, and the Pacific Fleet is fighting against some sort of Japanese kaiju, underwater kaiju, or maybe Dagon shows himself onto the field, and you're playing naval scale, but you're playing with kaiju. So that'd be fucking sweet. That's on the plan. I got rules written on pads of paper for playing Weird World War II kaiju battles, like in the Pacific or in the Atlantic. And with my invent of the Atlanteans, so, like, in my storyline, the Atlanteans, and okay, so the deep ones, I just made this up, so I have these two belligerents that are always at each other. The Atlanteans and the deep ones don't mix with the breeding thing, right? So the deep ones have no use for them, right? Other than, like, sacrificial or whatever. So, and the Atlanteans aren't, enticed by their bullshit. So you have that, if you go down the path of, like, creating a deep one, like, army for your gaming, you can create a whole nother thing of the Atlanteans, right? So, and I use, I think I've showcased my Atlanteans. I use, like, the Tau, like, devilfish tanks as Atlantean tanks, and I use the Sharkmen from Superfigs. They're like, they look pretty cool. They look pretty sweet. So, there you go. You got a whole new faction. Like, I was on a live feed earlier today, and one of the guys was saying that, he's burned out of World War II, and he's kind of interested in jumping into Weird World War II, but, he doesn't want to play, like, World War II per se. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to, man. Just, come up with some new armies. I mean, you can have, the Atlanteans fighting, the fucking Italians. Maybe they're going to take over Sicily, or maybe the Atlanteans back the Commonwealth in Greece. There you go, or some shit. You can just insert these armies, and then, like, maybe instead of, like, in Pearl, maybe there's a deep one land invasion while the Japanese do a aerial bombardment. You know what I mean? So you can go crazy, and it's cool because it just gives you another level of like gameplay and like collectability. Because you can like, hey, I can buy some fucking more minis, or already have these minis from a fantasy game, and I just throw them in my game. So, but the deep ones, just the story. I like to follow. I like to follow if I'm using someone's shit, and I do a lot because I take from everything because that's what makes Weird World War II so cool is that you can do whatever the fuck you want. There's no said path, how it has to be, and there's no army list when it comes to the weird. It's all up to you. But like when I use mythos shit, I try to use it in the vein that Lovecraft had created, right? Just not so much. I'm not, I don't have imagination or anything, but I just think it's cool. I think it's cool to work that into my story instead of like just completely altering it. But yeah, so the deep ones would be again, third party or an ally to your, again, I don't know if that I don't think democratic countries would go for the exchange of like Dagon worship or breeding stock or sacrifices, or whatever. But the fascists definitely would. But there might be communities that are desperate. You have, I don't know, maybe Wake Island. The defenders are desperate, and the deep ones come out of the water and say, "Hey, for this, we'll help you defend the island against the Japanese." And then what is the trade off? What is the offering that the deep ones are demanding? That's something that's kind of cool. Imagine like a bunch of deep ones climbing up the troop ships of the Japanese around Wake and fighting them on the decks of the fucking ships or whatever, and then like they defeat the Japanese, and then maybe they take all the Japanese as prisoners or sacrifices that survive, or I don't know, whatever. So that's cool. You can just go crazy. Okay, so deep ones are definitely, and they're a servitor race in the way that they serve Dagon and Hydra. But so that allows them to be malleable and like being controllable from those kind of powers. So they make great armies. In other words, they're not individuals doing their own thing. They're actually motivated by a higher power or a higher authority. So you produce armies that will fight for whatever cause. It may not be their individual's cause, but it'll be like their leader's cause. But yeah, so okay, so, and then also you have that hybrid aspect of the deep ones. So you can have communities that have been infiltrated and are turning, or maybe you're playing a game, of like trying to cleanse a town, and you got to figure out a way to like do it, or you're like playing the deep ones, and you're able like in my I just arbitrate like the deep ones don't start the hybrids don't start to show their fishy characteristics until after 25 years of age, and that's if they're born from it, right? So you can come up with whatever you want. So you could have like hybrids that don't show at all, right? And then you have some that are starting to get the webs and the fangs and the gills or whatever. So you in your gaming you can go crazy on like levels of like this is a class A hybrid, which is like human, and then maybe a class B maybe can see better in the darkness, and then class C would be like they're not affected by cold or pressure, and they can swim really good. And then class 4 is like they're completely like they're a complete deep one hybrid. Like, so, and you can also equate these two, I guess, like the Gene Stealers, the story, the original. I don't know what the new 40K shit is, but back in the day, the Gene Stealers were basically an infiltrator race that would like be sent out in front of the Hive Fleet, and they had like the Gene Stealer's kiss would like infect like get a captive and they have that tongue, and they basically inject him with the goo, and they would become hybrids, gene stealer hybrids, and then they would co- completely alter their thinking, and like, we got to set up for the fleet's advance, and we got to spread the taint, and convert more, and the subterfuge against what the humans and all. But it'd be like that. It could be like that kind of level of interaction with the deep ones. They could be like slowly getting into communities and converting it and manipulating it or whatever, and playing, depending on what side you play. You can play as the deep ones or play as the humans trying to defend. And you can do role playing with that easy. You can do some heavy, like social role playing. Classic Call of Cthulhu. Trying to figure out who's who, and what's going down and how to stop it or whatever. But yeah. So I made a few notes. Here's my notes on the deep ones, guys. So this is pieces of paper, and I'll make notes in the middle of the game, what makes sense, whatever. So I'm just going to go through these notes and hopefully give you guys some ideas for your own gaming. Okay. So whatever system that you have, you can modify these, or don't use them at all or whatever. But okay. So here are the hybrids. All right. So these things can have any kind of nationality, right? Again, their true allegiance is to Dagon and Hydra, and by proxy Cthulhu. So, but they could be from any country. Now, again, they can be worldwide. These hybrids can be all over the planet. It just depends on your story. It just depends on what the deep one's story is in your world, in your setting. So you can have them, off the coast of pretty much anything. I put limitations on mine because in my game I have the Kingdom of Atlantis, and they heavily patrol against the deep ones. So I usually, the deep ones won't have any like cities in the deep oceans in the Atlantic in my world, just because the Atlanteans are patrolling that. But again, off the coasts and stuff, like really, by the coasts, they could, and then just in the Pacific and the deep seas, the Med and all that shit. And again, that's my thing. But yeah, they can be all over, anywhere, in rivers, fucking swamps, whatever you want to do. So, but they are an aquatic race, right? So I would try to probably stick to coastal towns or areas that have water access or whatever. Now, and from what I've ascertained is that the hybrids are humans, right? That are starting to turn into deep one. Like, I don't think there'll ever be true deep ones. I don't think that's how that works. I think they become as deep one as they can. Eventually they'll go back to the sea and they'll swim and they'll breathe and they'll just live underwater, right? But I don't think they are deep ones. But they might. I'm not sure. That could be your story. Maybe that's the life cycle. The person is tainted by the corruption of the deep ones, and then over time they do become deep ones, and maybe that's where all the deep ones come from. They're all tainted individuals that have become these creatures. Or they're two different things. You have like hybrid deep ones down below too. So you've got the pure strand and the hybrids, even when they fully become fishy. It's however you want to do it. But while they're hybrids up top on the surface, I would try to give them levels of of the change. I would try to like have some that are that look just like human, so you can in your gaming you can get away with them doing what they're doing because they look human. And then you have those that are starting to change, starting to get the bulbous eyes, and they start to get fishy smell or whatever. So I think that's cool to have varying levels of hybrid, and you can come up with however it is, their age or their level of taint or whatever it might be. So, but it's up to you. But I think it's a cool idea to have that variation, and that'll also allow you to maybe buy some different kind of minis, right? Instead of like, if you pigeonhole yourself into like a certain storyline where the hybrids look a certain way and they have to be this, that mean it kind of limits, if you stick with your story, it limits your ability to use some more figures, like civilian figures you might have, or partisans you can use, resistance fighters you can use, for the deep ones. They're just not turn per se. And then it also lends to some cool like conversion work. You could start painting like blotches of like scales maybe on some of your civilian minis, or give them some bulbous eyes, or maybe paint some like gills on them, or maybe there's a fish tail, or there's a claw, or a claw, like a claw, like a crab claw. That'd be kind of fun. I mean, that's fun. And again, like in my game, it's like there's different kinds of deep ones. So, you can have the shark dudes, and they have your hybrids can have various levels of aquatic mutations. You can have like shark fins, and you have giant fucking shark teeth or something, but they're still human in the other. But that'd be cool. That'd be cool for all you horror guys and your converters or whatever. That'd be a lot of fun to do. But on land, so in my game, the humans would act like humans, right? They'd act like your normal. So they'd have your normal rules for whatever game that you play. But like when they start to turn, I start to put limitations on their land movement, because that maybe they're starting to gain webbed feet, or they start to get their hands start to become claws or whatever. So it maybe reduces their mobility on land a little bit. But I always, with that that penalty, I give them a boon too, where they can swim better. Maybe they can see in the dark, like the ones that have turned more. They can see in the dark. They're not affected by cold or pressure, shit like that. Now, I think that's good for the movement. Now, toughness wise, you can go with toughness and strength. You could go two ways with that. Hey, Shadow, what's up, buddy? We're you're wargaming. With toughness and strength. Now, again, if you have varying degrees of, deep wind transformation, the humanoid one, I wouldn't give them any extra powers or tough or any strength or toughness. But crab, shark, fish, hybrid humanoids, you can maybe give them tougher hides, or maybe they have like a stronger attack, close combat attack or something. Maybe they can throw things further as they start to mutate and start to get more fishy. Or it could be penalties. Maybe they can't use firearms anymore because their fucking hands have turned into claws, right? So they're reduced back to primitive weapons just because they can't stick their big meat claws into the fucking pistol grip of your machine gun or some shit, right? So it's like, if you got an MG, if a deep one comes across a MG42, he can't get his big meaty claw into the fucking trigger guard. So it's like, it could be as easy as something like that. They're prevented from using certain things just because those items aren't meant, they're not designed for fish claws and shit. Yeah, I mean, infiltrate. So the hybrids would make great infiltrators in your game, dude. Even in your armies. So like if you're playing like army on army, maybe you roll, in your story, maybe you roll like D6, hybrid infiltrators in your forces. We've done that before. So and let's talk about that. Like we like rolled against how many have been tainted, right? And they're kind of like plants into this. And it was actually I believe it was a Japanese high command. And there was like 4 infiltrators in this command, and there was like security units or whatever. But you couldn't tell because they were like the hybrids that looked great. But what was cool is that you controlled all the minis because you're playing Japanese, right? You control all the minis at all the time until your opponent is like, all right, that's an infiltrator. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're like, what? So you let the opponent play as the bad guy as the deep one when they're shown, and then all of a sudden all hell fucking breaks loose. So that's a lot of fun. And I love games like that where it's not. I hate games that are balanced. I hate games that are point based. I hate games there's like us versus them and blah blah blah. I like all this crazy shit happening, and it's a challenge. It's a lot of fun. Bo, what's up, buddy? But yeah, so again, for toughness and strength, I think it would vary on their, the level of their transformation. Now, their morale or their leadership or whatever, I think their morale would become better as they start to change because they're being, they have this like this mythos pride or mythos backing. So I think their their level of troop quality or whatever might be going up a little bit because of that. And then plus they're probably getting infused with some sort of mythos powers and maybe some mental like attunement to like this is for the race. It's not for the individual or for the country, it's for the race of the deep ones. So they're more driven to give their lives or do whatever for the gods or whatever. Want to buy some French rifles? Only been dropped once. Only never been fired and only dropped once. Yeah. But yeah, so also like in my game, the deep ones, they cause fear. And but like the hybrids wouldn't be afraid of, I would say, other similar mythos creatures. Maybe not like large creatures, but like like servitor races, like maybe night gaunts, they wouldn't be afraid of because they're living in a world where their best buddies are like fucking fish people, right? So seeing a yith hound or whatever running around on the battlefield wouldn't freak him out as much as like a human that's like, what the hell is that? It has no reference for that whatsoever. And now we were talking earlier about the weapons, right? So again, because if you decide to use your hybrids in varying layers of mutation, the more humanoid hybrids will have access to and can use anything that a human can, right? But as these guys start to get more fishy, there might be restrictions. Like I said, their hands might be turning into claws, or they might get webbed or whatever. So the access of your armory might get lessened just because you can't fucking actually manhandle the thing. So and that'd be cool. That could give you cool like limitations for these kind of creatures. So and then I have a rule called lost humanity. Basically, they fight in a psychological way that they don't give any quarter. It's not they don't it's not about like they wouldn't take prisoners. If they did, it would be for specific reasons. It would be for like sacrificial stuff, offerings, or it would be for breeding stock, or hell, even maybe food. Now they don't really talk about in the stories that the deep one feed like per se on humanity, but I mean, why not? Maybe the deep ones are actually consuming humanity, so that might be another reason why they're in the fray. Now, some characteristics. So in my game, we have sensory rolls, like sighting checks and hearing checks. It's called just a awareness roll. And the fishmen, the hybrids that have become fishy, will give off a smell. They'll start to smell fishy, right? They start to excrete that slime on them, and so they'll get in And it's not huge. It's not like, oh, you can smell the fish 24 inches away. No, it's just like a couple inches at the most. Like in mine, it's 3 inches away. If you roll a sensory check, you might pick up, whiff something fishy. So like if you're in a fucking you're in a barn, looking for something, and you smell something fishy, it's probably not the fucking pig or the German. It might be something else that's in there. So, I also put that the slime that they excrete in your mechanics, if you have ways to like capture people or whatever, it makes it just a little bit harder to keep a hold of them, like grapple them or capture them because they're slimy, So attacks, like natural attacks. So in my game, I would figure that as they start to turn fishy, they might have like claws or pincers or whatever, and they have like teeth, right? So you can have like a claw attack, like a pinch attack, or like a bite attack. I mean, it's not like it wouldn't be anything like something like from like this, or like but it would be like a human size. So maybe there's like a little bit of modifier, maybe a -1 or a +1, however you guys do it on their close combat attack, because they have like these mutations are giving them natural ability to fight better. And then spell casting. So I would definitely allow the certain, probably the more advanced mutated hybrids to be spellcasters. Okay, I wouldn't think, but again, it's up to you and however you design your TO&E for your deep ones. So definitely spellcasting. Now, Achtung Cthulhu and Call of Cthulhu and in any fucking game you can use whatever spells you want, man. Like if you want to use D&D spells, do it. Pathfinder spells, do it. Achtung Cthulhu spells, do it. Make up your own shit, do it. And but for like some guidance, any kind of like aquatic spells would probably work well with deep one mystics or shamans or whatever you want to call them, So they're definitely a spell casting race for sure. Maybe not all of them, but you have your gifted folks. All right, so that was the hybrid guys. Again, I seriously think that you should have varying levels of hybrid. It makes for cool story, and it allow you to buy some cool shit out in the industry, and even do some converting. Chop off some arms, stick on a claw, stick on a fin, put a tail on somebody, make up your own hybrid and see how they look. And I definitely think that you guys should use whatever kind of fish people that you want. I think it should be a Maj Podge. I think it should just be aquatic in general, so you can have all sorts of weird fucking shit. All right, so those are the hybrids. So let's jump into the pure brand, the pure strain ones, okay? So from what I've read, the hybrids are human sized, but the deep ones themselves are larger, okay? And again, I use the Reaper deep ones. Let's see if I can put my hand in front so you guys can see it. These are bones. They're fucking cheap as hell, dude, and they're great. So this compared, let me get a 28 millimeter for you guys. Okay, so that's a warlord. That's a warlord Jap, and here's a Reaper deep one. Let me put my hand in front of here so that get that focus in there. So that's cool. I mean, they're not giant size, but they're definitely larger than a human. So I think these are really good. But again, there's tons and tons of different like fish men models out there. Shark men, whale people, crab men. We also use the Reaper ones for the big guys. They're called in Achtung Cthulhu, they call them reef breakers. And I said, hell yeah, I want like a dreadnought looking fucking deep one. There he is, him and his barnacles and shit. But yeah, so that's what I use. So now the gods that they worship, okay, the esoteric order of Dagon is their faith, but Dagon and Hydra are not like gods. They're just like ancient deep ones. So, but they do worship through that. It's basically Cthulhu. So if you're into like I am, I'm really in like again, when I use someone's shit, I like to use their shit. So like I try to stick with like certain like cults are against other cults or wouldn't work with this, and certain servitor races wouldn't like be subservient to that person because it's Nyarlathotep instead of Dagon, right? Or it's Shab Nagath or whatever the fuck. So I think that's cool having those limitations. So again, your deep ones are going to be following the faith and like the people backing the people who follow Cthulhu. Okay. Again, base of operations across the globe, any kind of areas. Now the deep ones are definitely they're aquatic, but they're amphibious, right? So they can go on land. I would also I would make it to like they could only go on land for so long because they start to dry out, right? I mean they can breathe, but their skin is meant to be in the water. So maybe come up with some rules like if they're, out of the water for more than 24 hours, they start to like dry out. Maybe it makes their skin thinner or more susceptible to damage or something. Um, but yeah, they definitely are aquatic. So you want to kind of try to keep in that. And guys, it doesn't take much to make these little rules. A lot of guys are like, oh, so many fucking rules. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, it's not, man. It's just like they dry out. They're at a +1 or -1 to their damage taken because their skin is starting to thin out or whatever it might be. So that's pretty cool. So they probably move on land. They probably move a little slower, okay, because they probably got web feet or they got big old weird claws or whatever it might be. So I would reduce the pure strains reduction, not by a whole lot, by maybe just like an inch or so, just a little something less because just to show they're not quite humans working on the land. But like in the water, they can definitely swim a lot faster than what a normal human would. They would be immune to the cold. They'd be immune to the pressure. They could see really good at night. They could see in the water really well. But like in bright lights and like you probably more than likely you wouldn't see deep ones in like combat during the day, right? Or unless it's like shady or whatever. Now I know that there's some like you like your wizards or your shamans. You can cast like weather that would like be like stormy, so protect them from the sun, from drying out and shit. So there you go. That would reduce that whole like drying out on the land if you were able to alter the battlefield's weather. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what we got here. Hey Mutt, what's up, man? All right, everybody, swing by. Oh shit, Shadow's actually paying. Good job, dude. Yeah. So, yeah, everybody go check out Mini Warmutt's shit. He's plugging his stuff. I painted up another 2, 4, 6. I finished up those guys. I got 10 more dudes done. Let me show you guys. So those guys are all done. Yeah. That you can't see him, but yeah, there you go. Got some shit. That's like I'm up in the 40s. But okay, so we talked about like their movement in water would be superb, a lot better than. But okay, so we talked about like their movement in water would be superb, a lot better than a human's. They could go deep, they could see in the dark. Pressure is not a problem. Maybe fire weapons maybe they'd be susceptible to them a little bit more. Maybe I don't know. Definitely bright lights would probably affect them. So I would maybe either put limitations on their sight, or maybe make them they only deploy at night or some shit like that, or something like that. I think the bright light would be a good bane against them in your gaming because I think that's realistic. Now the strength, okay. Obviously they're going to be stronger than humans. All right. Now, depending on however you play them, it's up to you how stronger they are. In my game I consider them like apes or bears in strength. So manipulate that into whatever mechanics that you play. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Like a big like a gorilla, like a gorilla size, like a silverback, and then maybe like maybe not a grizzly, but maybe like a black bear in size and strength. So that might be a good start with that. Um, and depending on what your minis look like, and they can all be different. Like in your deep one, your raiding party could have 15 different minis with different characteristics. So you can either have them individually have different kind of like attack values and like modifiers, or you can have them all just clumped into whatever. But yeah, so now in mine, so look at the minis and see what they got. Like if they got claws, have some sort of claw attack. If they got teeth, like they have a bite attack, or maybe it's just a modifier to the damage because they got sharp teeth or sharp claws. Now, weapon wise, I don't think the deep ones would have like advanced weaponry. I know that they don't make advanced weaponry, or they don't have like technology per se. But again, like in most sci-fi or horror or fantasy, because it's aquatic, you can have aquatic shit. So like you can make like puffer fish bombs, or you can like coral fucking grenades or whatever it is. So you could go crazy on making like sea based like equipment. But I would say if they did use equipment, it'd be base like spears, tridents. That's kind of traditional. Nets, so they can capture people or whatever. But again, you could come up with the whole like eel toxin, or they have. And then another thing would be is that I would definitely allow like in your spell ability is have some sort of like like manipulate the sea life. So maybe they have they come up to the shore on like narwhals or fucking orcas, or they got fucking great whites patrolling around them or some shit. That'd be cool. The kind of manipulation of they're able to control sea life to some extent, but that would be sweet. The toughness definitely, they're definitely tougher. I would say definitely give these guys some heft when it comes to the toughness. So, reduce any kind of damage they take. Maybe they're immune to certain things. Maybe they're immune to maybe certain chemicals. Maybe they're like you just come up. Maybe they're immune to certain toxins because maybe they interact with toxins down below, so they have an immunity or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, like Aquaman. They could do. I mean, maybe not like every single one, but definitely like the shaman and maybe the leadership would have some sort of Aquaman ability. Now, the movement, again, they should be reduced on the land just because their bodies aren't really meant for the land, but in the water, they're fucking badass. So, compared to human movement, they definitely double at least their swim abilities and all that stuff. And holding their breath, they don't have to. They just, they can breathe underwater. Now, psychological, they definitely would cause some sort of fear or terror. Maybe not terror. Terror would be like big giant shit, but like fear. So like your enemies would have to roll some sort of leadership or some sort of morale or whatever it might be in your mechanics. If they've never seen it before, the initial shock could make them break or make them freak out or have penalties or whatever. Now, sizes we were talking about, they're definitely, even in the stories, that Lovecraft talked about, the deep ones themselves are larger than like the hybrids. Hybrids are roughly human size, but these guys are bigger. Now you can even get bigger, like these are like, dreadnought size. You can have maybe vehicle size deep ones, because in the mythos, it says Dagon and Mother Hydra are like ancient deep ones, and they're massive. They're kaiju size, right? So it's like that. Maybe that equates to the older a deep one gets, the larger it gets. So you can have all sorts of varying sizes of your deep ones. So you can come up with categories, vehicle size deep one, dreadnought size deep one, and then like, base size deep one. Now I know that there aren't, the only big ones I've heard of or read it that was Hydra and Dagon. So I wouldn't have like a bunch of like kaiju sized, deep one. But you can, shit, you're playing naval games and you got like a squad of super deep ones and you're fighting those fuckers. Yeah, giant seahorses, that'd be cool. And then, or what's the? There's kind of like a hippocampus. It's kind of like it's like an actual seahorse. It's like a horse. I think it's called a hippocampus or something. It's like a hippogriff, but it's like a aquatic version. Those would be cool. But yeah, so and you can go crazy on your your bigger ones. And again, it depends on your system. If you're playing like some fantasy system mechanics, just use dreadnoughts. Just say, hey, this is a dreadnought. If you want to just ease of play, this guy's a dreadnought. This guy's a little bit tougher or whatever. So yeah, hippocampus, yeah. But yeah, so the deep ones make a great third party enemy or an ally to your existing army or an army to themselves. And again, you can go crazy on like, because there's no historical TO&E for it, you just make up whatever the fuck you want. That's what's great about all this stuff, guys, is that Weird WWII is truly your game, and you just design it and play it however the fuck you want. Again, I put limitations on that just because I kind of want to honor Lovecraft and his original idea, and so I try to stay within in the bounds of what he wrote and for his shit. I might do some modifications, but I try to stick to the story because that's what's so cool about it. It's a deep one. It's not a fish man. It's a deep one. These are deep ones from the Lovecraftian mythos. Now, I could easily just say these are frog monster people, or these are humanoids from the deep, and they just want to hump all your ladies, kill all the dudes and hump all the ladies. But I want to play them as deep ones. So I want to kind of stick to the deep one background. But again, that's just me. You guys can go crazy. And then the cool thing about these things is you can use that aquatic, the theme, and you can go crazy. Have aquatic creatures that follow them into battle. They have access to aquatic, poisons, jellyfish bombs and pufferfish bombs, or maybe they create some sort of chemical attack with some sort of excretions from some sort of creature, whatever. But their weapons are made out of coral or whatever it is. So you can go really crazy on the whole sea-based weaponry that they've created from the depths. But then it's also cool to think about they're slavers. They're looking for breeding stock. They're looking for sacrificial shit. So you have that level of they're tempered. Your battles might be tempered with okay, you can't just go into this village, this fishing, or even this naval base. You can't just go into this naval base and just fucking kill everybody. You got to actually take captives. So, and there's they're bound by that. I mean, not bound, but there's a reason why, is because of those factors. So that's another level of the story that affects the gameplay, which is a lot of fun. So that's really cool. So, but yeah, so that's what I use for my deep ones. Me and Omen played a game, which is up on the channel now, if you guys want to check that out. And we used the deep ones. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a great army to add if you're playing Weird WWII, and even we had we had that video about keeping Weird WWII weird, you know, because we start to fall into those common tropes of everybody's got fucking mechs, everybody's got wizards, everybody's got zombies, blah blah. You know, it gets boring. But boom, all of a sudden, you got a deep one army, man, or forces of Atlantis, or whatever it might be. So pretty cool. All right, guys. Well, we're running on an hour here. I appreciate everybody that came by. Justin, Mutt, Shadow, Nerd, Bo, thanks for swinging by. Hope this gives you guys some ideas. Again, if you're into reading backgrounds of Lovecraft, there's tons of shit, man. Tons of free stuff. Go on Wikipedia. There's the was it the HP Lovecraft Wiki is a good resource to go to and check out. If you go to Horror Babble, all of Lovecraft's writings are on audio there for free. If you go to the YouTube channel, Horror Babble, fantastic site. It's all free. It's well done audiobooks, but all of Lovecraft stuff's in there. So if you want to go check out, you know, the Shadow over Innsmouth and see how that all transpired, read that one and read Dagon. Those are the two that are kind of affiliated with the deep ones. So that'll give you a starting point if you want to follow along with Lovecraft's intentions. But other than that, there's all sorts of, you know, Octoon Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu, and then just any fantasy or that have fish fucking, you know, related stuff. Now there is a war game. Oh man, I think it's called Beneath the Waves, or I cannot remember what it's called, but it's an actual game of like aquatic combat. It's like, you know, basically like fishmen and like Atlanteans fighting underwater, and it's kind of like a sci-fi. It looks fun. I've never played it. I tried to get the rule book. The rule book's still kind of pricey, and it's kind of hard to find. But check it out. It's I cannot remember it, but it's a specific mechanics to play underwater. So that's kind of cool. I'd like to check those out and see what kind of cool ideas they maybe came up with and playing. And playing, just imagine that, playing a skirmish game or even like, you know, a 40K sized battle in 3 dimensions, because, you know, you got, you know, depth and height in you have, you know, a true 3-dimensional landscape in when you're swimming in the water. So that'd be kind of fun to check out, try to figure out, play stuff like that. But all right, guys. Well, hopefully that might, you know, get your beans percolating a little bit there, thinking about, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Definitely go buy Reaper if you want to get some great looking deep one minis for on the cheap. Swing by Reaper. But there are some other companies out there that make some fucking fantastic fishmen, you know, sharkmen, crabmen, you know, whatever. And you can go crazy on that. All right, guys. Whatever you do, watch out for the fishmen, okay? They're sneaky and keep it weird. See ya.